So this is finding and winning buyers. And, you know, we always start Ignite with this sort of session here, this part of what do successful agents do every day. And they grow their business. They work on generating leads for buyers and sellers, make these presentations, all those things that we've talked about again and again on the left. And then on the right, we talk about how successful agents every day sort of work on running their business as well, right? Now, what are we doing today? We're really going to talk about specifically finding buyer leads, right? And you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot is, oh wait, Jason, I think I can unmute you here. Are you unmuted now, Jason? Can you speak?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go, my friend. I'm going to hold the floor here for a second and give you a chance to kind of jump in. Welcome to Ignite 2.0. We've got 19 people in the room right now. How are you doing, Jason?
Good. How are you?
Good. You know what? I figured there's no better session for us to have you in front of than the one that talks about working with buyers, because that's right in your wheelhouse. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what do you have that you would be able to share with these guys today?
So, I mean, as you know, as far as buyers are concerned, we're seeing, you know, a ton of purchase applications. One thing that I've been doing differently actually is, you know, just trying to work with some agents and, you know, talk about like what their scripts are, you know, for buyers or sellers. And interestingly enough, you know, I do want to share something that's actually relevant to trying to generate leads for sellers or for listings, because one thing that people have been doing, I know that a lot of agents, what I found is, you know, they'll ask, how much do you think your home is worth? And sometimes, you know, that conversation will reach a dead end. And, you know, I always like to say, you know, if you could find another way to add value, then what you're doing is you're opening the door to referrals. It might not be that person's business, but if you're able to help them in some way, shape, or form, maybe not sell their home, but in another way, then what they're going to do is they're going to see that you added value for them. And then if anyone else that they know is looking, then they'll refer those people to you. So one thing that I've been saying is, because the refi market is so hot right now, certain people might not want to sell their homes. They might be scared. But if you know, if you ask, have you if you thought about refinancing your home, you know, that might be something that they are interested in. And then you can always offer your in-house lenders as, you know, a resource. And then, you know, if I've had at least like 4 deals last week where they weren't all real estate agents, but one was a real estate agent, 2 financial advisors, and then actually the other one was someone in the online marketing business. But they were able to leverage this refinance boom to add value for clients that were not particularly interested in their services at the time. And I think out of those 4, 2 people got referrals from their friend. Like 2 people referred their friends for business.
Love that.
Yeah, it's something, you know, it's a little bit outside the box, you know, and I think the challenge that a lot of agents have is, like, you know, they know, hey, I'm not well versed in talking about a refi or about mortgages, but you really don't need to be. All you need to do is ask the question and say, hey, you know, we have in-house lenders that I can offer to you. Would you be interested in speaking to someone? And then if they are, and they're able to get the help that they need, then, you know, possibly, you know, you can ask for referrals, right? Because you've done something for them. So that's something I wanted to bring up. And as far as like purchase applications,
you know what, Jason, can I just interrupt for 1 second? One of the things I want to piggyback before you step off of that point. The reason that's so powerful, guys, and the reason why right now every single person in your database you should be talking to about refis, and even if they're not ready to refi, the idea though is this: right now interest rates are just ridiculously low, and I know that we've said at lots of different times in our lives that they're at the lowest we're probably going to see in our lifetime, but I think we really are pretty close to there. The point is this: when you do something positive for someone and you help them save some money, what happens is it triggers the law of reciprocity. they feel a sense of gratitude and they feel a sense of debt. And so anything that you can do like this to kind of do something good for someone gives you the opportunity then to ask for a lead or to ask for a referral and to get a much stronger response. And there is no better way that I can think of right now to have an absolutely easy layup phone call than to say, hey,
Yep.
you know what, are you aware of just how low interest rates have gotten right now? Have you spoken to a lender? Would you at least like to have a conversation to see if you could save a few $100s a month on your mortgage payment, right? That is just a complete home run as far as I can see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree 100%. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, I guess certain people will hear me talk about this and they think, you know, I'm just jumping on a call trying to get some business for myself. No doubt I am trying to generate business for myself, but this really is, it's a win-win-win. You know, it's if they're able to save some money, then they win. If they refer you business, then you win. And if I get the business, then I win. So it's like, it's something where you really can't go wrong, and you can leverage everyone is talking about the rates, right? That's why, like, I really just don't want to get on the call and bore you with, yeah, the rates are at historic lows. They're at historic lows. I'm sure you've been hearing it for the last 3 weeks. You know, we could talk about people migrating from the city into the suburbs. We've been talking about that for the last month. So I just want to try to, you know, give you guys some type of value, something that you can do a little bit differently, that would, you know, help you, you know, set yourself apart from the other people, the other agents that are making those calls. Because I can guarantee you that those, you know, the people that you're calling, there's a ton of other people calling them as well, and you already know that. But yeah, as far as, you know, the, you know, lead gen for buyers are concerned, what we do is if you have listings and you want to market them, we have a way to market your listings and generate and actually capture the leads. So for example, like we have this tool where it's really easy to use, and a lot of agents in Keller Williams use it already. But you can post your open houses across all of these different platforms. And when people go and click on the data actually gets emailed to you. That person's contact info gets emailed to you. So like, I have one agent in particular. If you guys were on, I believe it was the Ask Al call within the last couple of weeks, Travis Swan from Keller Williams in Rutherford, he used this tool like nonstop. And he has a huge team of buyer's agents, and like these are all the leads that his buyer's agents are calling. So I mean, if anyone's interested in doing that and you want to use this tool, let me know. It's really simple.
Can I ask a question about that tool? Is the data that you post, is it mortgage data, like monthly payment data? What specifically would inspire someone to click on that data so we can capture their information?
It's just marketing the open house. So if they click on it and they're interested in the open house, we get all of their data, and then we just email it directly to the agent who, you know, posted the open house on our tool.
So it's a little bit like a Facebook lead capture ad where they see something, they click on it, and it pulls that data and it sends it somewhere.
Right, but it posts it. Yeah, it's like Facebook, but it posts it on Facebook, Instagram, but like across a couple different platforms. So. You know, yeah, really, really helpful. A lot of agents have been using that to generate buyer leads.
God, you know what? When I got in real estate in 2003, if we had tools like this, man, oh God, it's amazing the tools that are out there right now.
Yeah, we sometimes we're very spoiled. Like we have even, you know, salespeople on our team that are calling these leads, and they're, you know, sometimes they're like, oh, I got to call, like, or, you know, I can't close this lead. And we're like, what do you mean you can't close this lead? We used to call people out of the white pages, like, or the yellow pages. You know, now you're getting, you know, this person is looking to buy a home, you know, so, you know, not everyone's going to be interested, of course, but, you know, it's definitely, you're going to have a much better chance at, you know, converting those leads, you know, than you would if you were, you know, doing other things, so to speak.
Love it.
And the good thing about it too is that, like, if it's connected to the agent, when someone from our team calls, if we pre-approve that person, before the agent has a chance to get to them, then we're reaching out to the agent directly and saying, hey, this was one of your buyer leads. We were able to pre-approve them. Here's a client.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. All righty. So if people want to learn more about how to connect with you around that tool, they can reach out to you directly. Would you be able to throw your contact information up into the chat, buddy, Jason?
Absolutely. I'll do it right now.
All right. Awesome. Terrific. Any other questions that people have for Jason before he jumps out? All right, man. Always appreciate having you here.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Enjoy the class. Take care, guys.
Of course they will.
Of course they will. It's Hal. Why wouldn't they? Thanks again, Hal. Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right, guys. You know what? Just as a sidebar, you know, that kind of lead capture, even if you get somebody who's just kind of curious and not super ready to go out and do something, you know, as we're going to talk about today, once you get their contact information into your database, then what you're going to do is just kind of nurture that relationship and try to add enough value so that they let you hang around in their lives until they really are ready, right, for a real estate agent. So back to the PowerPoint, right? What we're going to focus on today is generating leads for buyers and sellers. And so let me ask you this question, because we always talk about the 3 L's of real estate, which is not location, location, location. The 3 L's are leads, listings, and leverage. The idea is that until you've got enough leads to work with, nothing else really matters. Until you've got customers to talk to, it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how talented you are. If you got nobody to provide service for, you don't have anything. And then we talk about leads leading to listings. That listings are just a more powerful type of listing than a buyer listing. And a buyer listing is certainly that buyer who signs a buyer's agency agreement, a commitment to work with you. So let me ask you this question. Who in a market economy is more critical, the buyer or the seller? Let's just think about this for a second. In a market environment, you need both, but who's the most critical? The buyer or the seller? What do you think? Anybody can throw it in chat, their response. Anybody can unmute and just throw it out there.
I would think the buyer. That's where the demand comes from.
That's where the demand comes from. Devon, have you, you said you're newer to real estate, or you've been in real estate for a while?
No, this Monday is actually my first day.
This Monday is your first day. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
So I see in the chat box, I see seller, buyer, both seller. Well, here's the thing. You need both, right? But at the end of the day, if there's no demand, there's no market. It doesn't matter if you've got 1 million people with product and service. If you don't have anybody who's willing to pay for it, you don't have a market. And so at the end of the day, the person who's spending the money in many ways makes the market happen. Now, here's the thing. Your goal then, as in business, is to get into a relationship with people who want to spend money. And then when you think about how would I do that? The fastest, the easiest, the most leveraged way, remember it's leads, listings, and leverage, is that the listing is the most leveraged way to find someone to spend money. If you want to get in the pathway of somebody willing to open up their wallet, then you just need to control the item that they want to spend the money on. If you control the item and they want to spend money, they will come and find you. If you don't control the item that they want to spend money on, then you have to go and find them yourself. And that takes more time. It takes more energy. It's much more expensive on your part. And so while at the end of the day, we want to get into relationship with buyers, that is our primary goal. The easiest pathway to do it is to control the listing inventory. And so we're going to actually start with where to find buyers right now, but understand that the listings is the easiest pathway. If you don't have listings, what else are you doing? That's what we're talking about today. I see Bonnie is also new in the chat. Welcome. I see Alexa Albert is also new in the chat. The state of New Jersey finally got off their COVID-related, you know what's, and processed a whole lot of licenses. And we are so thrilled that you guys are here and jumping into Ignite. So in any market, we need sellers, but we need buyers, right? And so how are we going to find buyers? Well, here's the good news. One of the things that's really important to know is if you look at research that looks at all of the transactions that happens, and we'll just call those deed transfers. When one person sells to another person, 89% of the time, they're using a professional agent, a real estate agent, to negotiate that transfer of the deed. And that's really great news for you. Now, sometimes there's going to be sales that happen without an agent. And we call those the for sale by owner market, right? And in the for sale by owner market, there's kind of two camps. There are people that already have a buyer in mind, and they don't need to market the home. Maybe it's a grandparent who's selling a house to a grandchild. Maybe it's somebody who's already expressed an interest in a home and said, look, I've always admired your home, and I just want to know that if you're ever thinking about selling it, talk to me first because I'll pay for it because I want to live here. There's a lot of transfers of deeds that happen that never need to be marketed. And it probably accounts for, some estimates are somewhere about 6 to 8% of all the deed transfers happen that way, right? Families selling inside of a family, that sort of thing. And then there's this other market, the for sale by owner market, which needs to be marketed. It's just that the seller believes that they can market it themselves and have a better outcome than they would if they hired a professional. And for lots and lots of different reasons, we know that that isn't true. The biggest of which is that they don't have the ability to create as big a market and as urgent a market as a professional does. And the reason for that is 89% of the buyers who are really serious are already working with an agent, right? And that's really good news for you. Another statistics that really important is 41% of the buyers found the agent that they wanted to work with through a referral from their friends or family. And that's one of the reasons why we spent so much time earlier in Ignite talking about the importance of your database. For those of you guys who are new, I see Natalie and folks who've chatted in, Bonnie, Alexa. If you're new and you haven't seen any of the other Ignite series classes, this is a series that runs for 18 sessions. It'll run all the way into mid-August. But all the other sessions that we've done so far are recorded, and they live on the Keller Williams Bergen County Partners YouTube page. And there's a playlist that says Ignite 2.0. Just go back in there and you can see some of the ones that you've missed. We run this series every other month, basically, so you'll have a chance to jump in and do it live again. But if you missed the session on your database and how to work the database and how to generate these buyers' leads from your database, that's up on YouTube. Go take a look. 75% of buyers, this is a game changer, guys. 75% of the buyers only interviewed one agent. I didn't interview people the same way that I might if I'm listing a home. Don't be surprised if a seller wants to talk to more than one person. But buyers largely are less discriminating, right? And so why? Let me rephrase that, because buyers can be discriminating, but they don't interview as many people, right? And they should be discriminating. They should be hiring the most talented agent to help them get their home met, and that should be you. But why do you think so few buyers interview so many agents? Just anybody have a thought about that you can unmute or just put in chat?
Do they assume you're going to see the same houses regardless of the agent?
Well, that could be part of it. You know, that's a pretty transactional way to look at it, which I think a lot of buyers do. Look, the only reason that I need somebody is because they have the ability to get me in. And if you can get me in, we're good. I don't need to interview 5,000 people. As long as you have a lockbox key, we're set. I think there is some of that out there. But I think that there's also this idea that a big chunk of these came as a personal referral from a friend or a family. And if somebody says to you, look, you know, you really should use this agent or this plumber or this dentist or whoever it is, because I've had great experiences. And if you go out and you interview them and there's nothing that jumps out that causes you to say, oh my God, this is terrible, then you're usually good, because the social proof of the friend's recommendation carries a lot of weight. And as long as you didn't find a way to put yourself in a deal breaker mode, you're going to get that business, right? That's another part of it. And I think lastly, the expectation that they aren't paying for the service also weighs in. You know, if I have to pay money to hire you, I might interview more people to make sure that I've got the very, very best. But because I don't have to write a check to be represented by as a buyer's specialist, then I think it's a little easier. So my point is this. It's more important to be first than it is to be best. Just write that down and say it to yourself again every single day. We have this concern sometimes that we have to completely be masters of everything that we need to do before we go out and try to get involved with serving people. And I get that, where that comes from. I totally get it. Nobody wants you to go out there and be incompetent. And I also get that if you're brand new and the state just activated your license, one of the things that you're going to find quickly is that your 75-hour pre-licensing course didn't teach you everything that you need yet to be successful. How do I know? Because I'm a licensed real estate instructor in the state of New Jersey, and I know what we teach in that curriculum. And we teach a lot of important things, but we don't teach you how to make business happen. You are going to need to learn some things. That's what Ignite is all about, right? But the point of the matter is, you know, the buyers are out there. You want to get in the pathway. You want to get there first, because if you get there first, you pretty much won the battle. You don't have to be the best in the world. You just got to get there before somebody else. And so we're going to think about how do you do that, right? Open houses, 51% of buyers visited an open house as a way to see homes that they might have interest in. And so that is one of the things that we teach at Ignite. One of the fastest pathways of getting in front of somebody first is be at the host of the open house when they come in to tour it. And there's a chance that you're going to be early in that search process. Right now, there's also a chance that they're going to have an established relationship with another agent. But the point is, we're always just trying to think about all the different ways that we can get there first. And nothing better than having conversations with your sphere of influence. No better way than to talk to the people who already know you, who already like you, who already love you, who want to see you succeed, and ask for their help. For those of you guys who are newer, you know, when you think about the amount of people that are in your quote unquote database, right? And by way of example, if you just take your phone and you go to the contact list, that's kind of a database. If you took your phone's contact list and scrolled all the way to the very, very bottom and saw how many contacts do you have in there, what research tells us is that 6% of those people will have a real estate action this year. 6%. And so if you have 100 people in there, there's 6 people that are going to do some real estate business this year. If you have 1,000 people in there, there's 60 people that are going to have a real estate action this year. The question is, are they going to have it with you? And that depends on the strength of the relationship. But when you've got strong relationships in that part of your database that we would actually call your sphere of influence, because we recognize that we don't have influence over everybody that's in our database. There's plenty of people who we don't have the ability to influence. They know who we are. They know where we are. They like us, but they're not so easily swayed by us yet because they don't have that kind of a relationship. But with the people who you do, those are the ones early in the game that you're going to need to ask for some help. I sometimes kid around and sort of say, I used to be a bartender years ago, and I sometimes say, if you found yourself in a bar fight, God forbid, nobody on this phone call would be in a bar fight. But if you were, and you needed a wingman to come and help you out, like who would you call? Who loves you that they would just get in there and fight for you regardless of whether you were right or you were wrong, but they had your back regardless of what happened? That's the person that in the beginning you need to go to and say, look, I just want to let you know I'm doing this real estate thing. I'm new to real estate and I need your help. Who do you know that is going to be one of those people that's going to be in a real estate action this year that you can point me to, that you can introduce me to? Because if you can introduce me to them, I've got a better chance of making that work, right? There may not be tons and tons and tons of bar fight buddies in your phone, but there's going to be some. And that's where you start, right? That's where you start. Okay, I just see that I'm keeping an eye on the waiting room here. That keeps moving, so I'm going to keep adding people. Let's move along. Buyer leads, other than your database, your sphere of influence, other than asking people for some help and asking them who do they know that they can point you to, other than getting in front of an open house, which we're going to talk about on a deep dive in the second half of Ignite, we're going to really unpack how do you do open houses well. Other ways to get in the pathway of people who are looking to buy homes. Well, one, Jason talked about is leverage technology, that they have the capacity through Bond Street Mortgage to advertise open houses. And when somebody who is interested self-selects and says, I want to know about that open house, their software will capture their name, telephone, and email address and send it to you as a way of saying, hey, we know this person has curiosity around open houses. This would be a good person to talk to. And so you give them a call and you reach out and you say, hey, you know what? My name is Hal from Keller Williams Realty. I see that you just actually clicked on an ad for an open house. Is there anything I can do to help you? Right? You know, there's other ways to leverage technology. One is Facebook. And Facebook has really become quite a marketing tool. And the thing we have to understand about Facebook and social media is it is a better way to get in the pathway of buyer leads than seller leads. And here's why. And we're going to talk about attracting sellers on Wednesday. That's the next module is finding and winning seller leads. But you know what? When you're trying to attract a seller to list their home, what they're going to be looking for is your brand. They're going to be looking to find an agent who's established, who has a brand and a value proposition. And it's really hard to advertise a brand in those Facebook ads, you know, those sponsored ads that pop up in people's feeds. The easier way to attract someone is to advertise inventory, because Facebook is really built to sell stuff. And when I see an ad for something that I have interest in, I'm going to click on it. Facebook is going to capture my lead, and then I'm going to follow up again. And so Facebook ads right now for us at Keller Williams is an extraordinarily leveraged way to advertise inventory so that somebody has interest, clicks on it, you capture their lead, and you may say to yourself, but what if I don't have inventory yet? I know you don't. However, I can point you to a training video that will show you how you can use your Keller Williams individual website. Every single one of us has a website that has the ability for our clients to go and to search for homes. And if you're brand new and your license is just activated, that may be in the process of still being set up. It won't take long. But when you do have that set up, what you can do, and what I would recommend you do, and anybody who wants to take a deeper walk around how to do this, just jump in on one of my office hours, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll be happy to really unpack that at a deeper level and send you a video that explains all the steps. But you simply go in and you do searches for inventory that would attract the kind of buyer you're looking for. So let's say, for example, I live in the town of Westfield. If I wanted to find people who wanted to buy a home in Westfield, I may go to my personal website and do a search of Westfield homes and probably find something that would be particularly attractive to an active buyer in the marketplace. Maybe I'm going to look for inventory that's new to the market. Maybe I'm going to look for inventory where the price has been reduced recently in the last 7 days, or something that a buyer who is interested in Westfield homes would say, ooh, I want to know about that. And I do that search and I come up with whatever that search result is. And maybe there's 5 homes in Westfield today that had a price correction in the last 7 days. And when I do that search, the search result will have its own unique URL website. And that's the website that I can capture and put into an ad that says, if you want to see all the homes that have had a price correction in 5 days, click here. They click there. It brings them to my website and shows them those 5 homes. And it captures their name, email address, and telephone number and sends it right into your command database. That really, really, really works well. If you don't have any way right now, if you don't have any buyers to talk to, that's a good way to do it. And the beauty of using Facebook and Keller Williams's account is it costs you something to do those ads, right? I own some other businesses and I do some Facebook advertising, and it can be fairly expensive. However, the beauty of running your Facebook ads through your KW Command account is this. Facebook looks at Keller Williams as a single user. If you were to advertise this on your own website, on your own Facebook business page, you're a single user. And Keller Williams is a single user. The difference is Keller Williams is a single user that has 100 and I don't know how many, 50,000 agents as part of the company. All of those agents are using the same ad account to place their ads, which means we're spending millions of dollars every month with Facebook to place ads. If you are that big a spender and that big an advertiser, do you think that your ads will get better treatment in terms of placement and preference, or less better treatment than a single real estate agent placing ads on their own? Hands down. When you do this through command, it is infinitely cheaper. What we're finding is that by running these kinds of ads to attract buyers by advertising inventory with a ad that's structured to run for 2 weeks with a budget that might be something on the order of $2 a day. So we're going to spend $30 or $28 over the course of 2 weeks, $2 a day, push that out in front. And again, we'll teach you how to create these ads. We'll teach you how to target the right audiences. But what we're finding is we're generating dozens of qualified buyers. And if you don't have a buyer to talk to, then that's another good way to build out a Facebook ad, capture those leads, talk to those folks. And if they're not ready to buy yet, nurture that relationship over time, right? Again, lots of places where you can go to learn how to do this. Go to our KW Bergen County Partners Facebook page. I believe Chris Gareffa and Elise Dulani and some of the others who are tech coordinators have created videos to learn how to do that. Reach out to me if you want to, and I can show you some links to show some of the best KW coaches in our system showing you how to do that. But that's another way to find a buyer if you don't have one to talk to. Another really good way is what we call home buyer seminars. And what a home buyer seminar is, you're creating an appointment. And in the age of COVID, we've been doing a lot of these in Zoom channels because I can't really rent out a hall and put people inside a building to have this kind of a meeting. But in the home buyer seminar, what we do is we invite people to come and share their expertise about how do you buy a home. And maybe what we'll do is have you, the real estate agent, be the one who talks a little bit about what are the market conditions right now? How do we actually get into homes when we've got a worldwide pandemic out there? What do we do to provide safety to get you into the home safely? What are the market conditions like? And again, if you're newer, if today's your first day and you're like, well, I don't really know all that yet, well, then ask us. We can share with you what you need to know. But you do a little bit of an introduction, an overview of the market, and maybe you partner with a real estate attorney who talks a little bit about the way that an attorney will protect a buyer in the home process. Maybe you talk to a home building inspector who will talk about how they inspect homes and what to do to make sure that the buyer buys a home that's a good house and not a lemon. Do you think that these folks in these ancillary businesses would love to get in front of potential buyers? Getting there first is more important than being there best. And what better way to get there first than to hold an educational forum that says, let me teach you about how to do this. Somebody who's just starting out that says, maybe it would be a good idea to learn a little bit about how to have success, goes and you meet them first. And the lawyer meets them first. And the inspector meets them first, right? Lots of different ways we can do that. And I'd encourage you to start to think about how you could create an educational forum, a home buyer seminar, to do that. If at some point you want to do a seminar on how to get a home sold and do a selling seminar, lots of agents do that. In that model, you might decide to have not just you and an attorney, but maybe a stager. If you're going to do a buyer seminar, let's go back to that for a second, get somebody like Jason to talk about the financing right now, right? The point is that's another place where you can put yourself in the pathway of people early in the search process and get there first, right? Active for sale by owners. We always think about for sale by owners as somebody that we want to get their listing, and perhaps we do, as long as they're serious and as long as they're willing to price the home appropriately and they're not just playing games, then we do want to see if we can serve them. But nobody sells their house to become a homeless person living under a bridge. And so when they sell their house, they're going to need to live somewhere else. And so active for sale by owners can be also a good source of people who will become buyers. And maybe they'll become buyers, and maybe they'll become renters, and maybe they'll become buyers or renters in a different market that we can't serve them, but at least then we could refer them to another agent who could represent them. Active for sale by owners can be another source of where you could find somebody who would be a buyer. Anything else that you could think of besides talking to your database in your sphere, besides putting yourself in front of an open house, besides an advertisement like on Facebook or a seminar like we described, or maybe FSBOs, anything else where people are finding creative ways to put themselves in front of potential buyers? Any ideas? You know, the real trick is these are some of the best practice strategies to put yourself in the pathway of somebody who wants to be a buyer today, meaning like right now or in the very near future. Anything that gets people into your world that allows you to kind of build a relationship with them over time so that when the time comes that they're ready to buy a home, they know you, like you, and trust you enough that you're going to be the person that they choose, is worth doing. A lot of really great marketing and advertising and prospecting is designed just to get into a relationship. And it's not always about real estate. Sometimes you might put some community information that's out there that's particularly interesting to people. You know, in order to learn how our town is going to handle the reopening of schools or not reopening of schools in the traditional way, here's the most current information. Click here for that. They click there, getting information that has nothing specifically to do with real estate, but now you have their contact information. And while they may or may not be somebody that we would reach out to and say, hey, have you thought about buying or selling a home? They may be someone who you can reach out to and say, hey, I see that you clicked on this information that I provided about our schools and our schools reopening. Clearly, you're someone who lives in the town or has an interest in the town. One of the things that I do on a pretty regular basis is just send information about what homes are selling for in the neighborhood. Is that information that would be ever of interest to you? Because if you can do that, I can send that to you on a monthly basis free of charge. You're going to find lots and lots of folks who say, yeah, you know what? I do want to know what's going on with the value of homes in town. I'm not ready to sell mine yet, but now you're building a relationship, right? And that's the game. That's the idea. That's the whole notion of building your database as a community, right? When you get those folks into your world, whether they're ready to be buyers now or ready to be buyers at some point in the future, and research tells us that the sweet spot is that most buyers probably sell and buy about every 10 years. In fact, what the research tells us is that about 65% of the population, about 2/3, will be buyers over the course of their lifetime. And this applies to in the United States, right? About 1/3 of people are going to stay renters their whole lives. About 1/3 of people are going to become homeowners. And of that 65% or so group that are going to become homeowners, what we know is that people sort of turn over their homes in different time frequencies. There's a certain percentage of people that move all the time. People that are in the military, people who, for a lot of different reasons. There's a certain percentage of people like me who find a place where they want to live and they stay a long time. I've been in my home almost 21 years now. But the sweet spot is about every 10 years. And so if people are kind of moving every 10 years, there's a really good chance that they're just not ready right now. It's kind of like being a dentist. You know, I don't really need a dentist every day. But when I need a dentist, I want to have a good relationship with one that I like and that I trust. And so you're kind of thinking about it the same way. You want to just get people into your world and you want to cultivate those relationships. And the people that are ready to meet quicker, you meet with quicker. The rest, we have to kind of nurture over time. And so how do we do that? Well, here's the visual. There's lots of different strategies of prospecting and marketing to get those buyers to jump into your funnel. And in the language of KW Command, which is the database that we've built for you to use, we're going to give people different titles, so to speak. We're going to call people that I have their contact information and I have the ability to send them information, but we've not got a two-way conversation going yet. They're still receiving what I send them. They haven't asked me to leave them alone. They haven't unsubscribed, but I'm just kind of dripping on them and they're not really responding. We're going to call those people leads. And once somebody responds back and says, hey, I have interest in what you're selling or sending me, now we're talking to them as contacts. That doesn't mean they're ready, willing, and able to buy a home yet. It's just now I've got a relationship that's beginning to form and I want to nurture it. And so how do we do that? We do that in Command with the tool that we call Smart Plans. A smart plan. It's a plan that's smart. And what it is, it's kind of a combination of automation and reaching out on your behalf. And there's lots of different smart plans for how we want to nurture these relationships. We have what we call a long-term nurture, which is already built by Keller Williams, which you can put somebody on in the very beginning of a relationship. That's not too aggressive. It's not too pushy. Maybe every month it'll send them some information about what's going on in their target neighborhoods. And maybe a couple of times a year, it may ask you to reach out and say hello to them and just invite them to an event or something like that. And then we've got much more focused nurtures, which are designed to perhaps find somebody who's closer to making a decision and kind of guide them through that process of getting clarity and getting closer and moving closer to taking that next step. The point of the matter is, I want you to be familiar with what these smart plans are and how to use those. And while this is not a KW Command class per se, I want you to get in to learn how to do them. I've got a quick minute here, and I think I might have the ability, stick with me for a second on this. I might have the ability to open up Command and show you what that could look like. So let me do a quick screen share. And in the screen share, you should hopefully be seeing my KW Command account. If you're not, somebody tell me, but my hope is that you're seeing that. And what you do is this little box up here in the red, it opens up the menu. If you guys are newer and you haven't seen Command yet, you will. I see Christine says Reese is doing your setup class at noon. We're going to be done in time for that, which is really great that you're getting set up. It's going to be awesome. Now you'll have all the ability to do all this stuff, right? But you go here, you click on this little red KW, and it'll show you this little section called Smart Plans. And you're going to click on the Smart Plans, and it's going to have a library here of all the different smart plans that already exist. There's a smart plan that'll help promote your app. There's a smart plan that is kind of a long-term nurture and a medium-term nurture. There's a smart plan that reminds you to kind of send somebody a birthday card when you know their birthday, or wish them happy anniversary on the anniversary of their home sale. Or there's a smart plan that's designed to kind of provide monthly neighborhood information to people specific to the neighborhood that they live in. There's lots of different smart plans. My point is this: I want you to learn how to use those to nurture relationships over time, because your smart plans are really the way that you just kind of keep grooming these relationships. Not everybody needs you today. No harm, no foul. We're just going to stay in relationships so when the time comes, we're ready to go. And I didn't point it out on the smart plans, but again, I'm trusting you can see the PowerPoint again here. But what you're seeing is that these smart plans are a combination of different ways of reaching out. It's not an email and an email and an email. You're going to see this first smart plan is maybe it's a phone call, and then you wait a little bit, and then maybe you reach out to them some other way, and then you wait a little bit, and then maybe you send them a text, and you kind of just mix up all the different channels, right? So that you can stay in touch over time. What will happen, and what the research tells us, is that it takes probably about 19 touches, we'll call them, over the course of a year for somebody who's not engaging with you to start to engage. It takes about 19 touches a year. Now, that's not to say that people won't engage quickly. Many will. And it's not to say that people will never engage and may take longer. Some of them will. But the sweet spot seems to be that if you kind of have a plan that you stay in touch 19 times over the course of the year, they're going to engage at some point. And once they do that, now they've moved into the contact side. At that point, we up our level of engagement. We're actually putting a plan together that's designed to stay in touch with them 36 times a year. Hold up, that's a lot. Am I going to get arrested for being a stalker? No, because these are people now who have given you permission. They've reached out and they've said, look, I'm open to engaging you. We just have to make sure that we're not spamming them and wasting their time, right? And it's a mixed group of channels. Some of those touches are going to come by email. So I'm going to email you some stuff about what's going on in your neighborhood. Some of those touches are going to be invitations to events that are going on. Some of those touches are going to be me picking up the phone and just talking to you a little bit. We're going to mix up those channels. But at some point when the time comes that people need what we have to do, our service that we're going to provide, they're going to raise their hand and they're going to say, hey, you know what, Hal, I think I might want to talk to you about selling my house or buying a house. At that point, we need to have a way of qualifying them and determining, well, how soon are you prepared to do that? And we use a tool called the lead sheet, right? The lead sheet is a questionnaire of sorts that we can provide to you. It exists in the materials for this class. In the Ignite class, when you go online to Ignite 2.0 and you find where all the material for this class is, there's going to be a toolkit. And in that toolkit is a lead sheet that will help you ask the right questions to determine, are you ready, willing, and able to buy a house right now? You might be ready and willing, but you might not be able. Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you're temporarily out of work. You may be ready, you may be able, and you may be ready, but if you know what's going on in the marketplace right now, a lot of the best inventory is going into multiple bids because there is so little inventory and so many buyers that in order to get one, you might have to get into a multiple bid situation and pay even more than the asking price. And that may not be something that you're willing to do. And so there's lots of different things, but we don't really move forward to an appointment until you've really shown us that you're ready, willing, and able to do what it takes to move forward. And then we use the lead sheet to determine that. And if I think you're ready and willing and able to go now or in the very near future, I'm going to probably classify you as something like an A-level buyer. To me, if you're ready to take action in the next month, you're an A-level buyer. A B-level buyer is, it's close, but it's not quite ready yet. For me, a B-level buyer was kind of 30 days to 90 days. And a C-level buyer was somebody who was serious, but they were at least 90 days away from taking that step and maybe as far out as a year. And you get to decide at what time frames you break those classifications down. The busier you are, the more you might want people to kind of tighten that time frame down. An A-level buyer may be somebody who's ready to go in 2 weeks, a B-level buyer in 30 days, a C-level buyer as much as 60 days. All of that, you get to decide how you're going to classify them, but you need a system. And I don't care whether you call them ABC, I don't care whether you call them 1, 2, 3, but you have to have a system because, and I talked about this lead sheet as a way of asking the right questions. Once you classify them, you're going to put them into command, into the part of command that's called the opportunity section. And we're going to follow them differently, right? We're going to follow them differently. I'm going to stay much more closely engaged with you. I'll probably hear from me every day if you're in that 30-day window. Probably maybe a few times a week if you're in that 60-day window. And maybe once a week or even less frequently depending on how far out you are. We need a system to qualify these leads using the lead sheet, right? But once we're ready to go and we're ready to go out and start looking at homes, what we need to do is to have a buyer's consultation. And what we need to do is to get them to sign a consultation, a buyer's agency agreement, the buyer agreement. What is that? Well, that's the way that we establish by contract the fiduciary role that we're playing with them in the representation of their home. Those of you who've been to real estate school, and that should be everybody on this call, you recognize that we represent listings and sellers through the signed listing agreement. That's how we establish by contract that we are their fiduciary. The same holds true with buyers. The way we establish our fiduciary role is by a signed buyer's agency agreement. And I believe I'm going to do a whole class later this month on kind of how to negotiate that, because there's a lot of buyers who are reluctant to sign a contract to work with an agent. And yet that's really important, right? That's really important in what we want to do, right? And so we ask for the business, we ask them to have that buyer's consultation, We commit that appointment time, we follow up, and we get them to sign that buyer's agency agreement, and then we're able and ready to go out and start to show them homes, right? And you know, for those of you who are newer, in the new agent launch series, we're kind of unpacking a lot of these steps in a little bit more detail. We've got a course called Win with Buyers, where we really do a deep dive on that buyer's consultation. I believe I have some recorded versions of that. If you want to sort of see what that looks like, reach out to me. We're putting those up onto the BCP YouTube page as well. But what I wanted to just make sure we touched on today is that there's lots and lots of places to find buyer leads. And in fact, I will tell you, as an agent who's in the newer phase of their business, it's probably smarter to try to find buyers first. They're easier to get to commit to work with you. It takes a little bit more skill to convert a listing lead than a buyer lead. Can we get buyers out of an agreement? There's a question in the chat. Can buyers get out of the agreement, buyer's agency agreement, by writing a letter to the broker? Their answer to that question is yes. You know, they can also get out of a listing agreement if they want to. One of the things that we know is that even though we've got a contract that says you're going to be my representative for this period of time, the real question becomes, if the buyer wants out, are you going to hold them to it? If the buyer chooses to breach that contract, are you going to take them to court? The answer is probably no. And the real answer is you can't take them to court, only your broker can. And your broker is probably not willing to spend the money to go to court to uphold this contract, only to find that the judge likely won't uphold it anyway. So the point is, you know, yeah, buyers can get out of these buyer's agency agreements. But the truth is that when a buyer makes their commitment to you in writing, as long as you're providing good services, they're very rarely going to, right? They won't. The commitment in writing is just so much stronger than the commitment in words, right? All right, guys, I know some of you have to jump because it's 2 minutes to 12 and you're going to get set up by Reese. But any takeaways or any ahas from anything that we talked about today? If you're newer to Ignite, I always end all of the classes that I teach with, what did you hear today that caused you to think differently? Any light bulbs that went off in your head today? We call those ahas, and I'm going to ask for at least one or two before we wrap up. Anybody?